Are you suffering? Some people automatically say yes. Some people automatically say no. Am I suffering? Am I suffering? In what ways do we suffer? Well, one of the ways that we suffer, certainly internally, is we create this fight, this resistance within ourselves when we say the word should or supposed to. I should be feeling this or shouldn't be feeling that. I don't want to be angry right now. And as soon as we do that, we're not accepting what's inside of us. There's this programming in our mind that says what is right or wrong, and we're constantly judging what is right, what is wrong, as if there's a right and wrong way. But they're one and the same. It's not God up above who's judging me, it's me. I'm judging me. It's not you who's judging me, I'm judging myself. I'm judging that you're judging me. And the thing that I'm afraid of most is what I do to you. So how do we suffer? How do we create our own suffering? This is the fundamental teaching of Buddhism and the Four Noble Truths. We must recognize that we suffer. As human beings, we are born to suffering. And that sounds very depressing, right? Not born to suffering. So what is there to admit or to see there? That in the admission of the suffering, in the honest looking at myself, if I look at the suffering, how then can I transcend it? Because a lot of us don't want to look at it because we don't believe there's any way beyond it either. But this is what spiritual teachers talk about as well, which is how do we transcend suffering to go beyond the mind, which is really what is generating suffering, the ego, who we've been taught to be, constantly thinking about things. And in the thinking about things, I'm constantly labeling them. And to understand fundamentally that nothing has a label. That this is not a body. This is something that we call a body. Every language has a different word for it. Because obviously we need to be able to refer to things. It's not to say that labels are bad. It's just to recognize what is beyond the label. There is something else there. And so as I look into my own suffering, what do I see? Well, beyond bodily pain, because I have back injury, that's created a lot of chronic pain in me, there's that mental and emotional energy created from these thought forms. One thought judging another. Oh, I shouldn't be thinking about... I'll use a practical example. I walk by Brio over here. Brio is a store that sells women's lingerie. And I feel bad if I look at it. Programming. So I look away. I'm not supposed to like this beauty. This is fake. So I feel guilty and bad for looking. And so I look away and I deny my own sexuality in the process. It's okay to like what I see. It's okay to want that in a beautiful way, in a beautifully connected way. It's okay to feel dirty about that at the same time. All of these emotions that we push down, that's one small example of how programming limits my self-expression and my freedom. And why do we have that programming in us? It's ultimately based in fear, because we feel like if we don't keep people in line, if we don't say here's what's right and wrong, people won't know what's right and wrong. But I believe that we all know what's right and wrong. We all have morals, and we don't need to look to religion or law to find out how to be a good person, how to be real, how to be authentic, how to be considerate of each other, how to forgive. That is built in. And yes, we do need things like law and religion sometimes to remind us, because we have forgotten. But fundamentally, that is a means to an end, I believe. It's a means to an end. It's not the way. But if I'm willing to embody and take responsibility for being a good person, first of all, then no, I don't need anything outside of myself to tell me how to treat people. And I am disempowering myself if I say that I do. And I am protecting others from themselves and protecting myself if I let fear rule me and say, other people need laws. Maybe I don't, but other people do. So it takes a lot of trust and surrender to say, I think we can figure this out. And it's not to say let's abolish all laws and all religion. No, again, we don't need to go to one extreme or another. But simply, can we begin to realize that I don't need to cling to and constantly look outside of myself for what is good, bad, right, and wrong to find my own way? Can I use my own curiosity, which has been pushed down in me in my education? Right? We weren't taught to be curious because questioning our very reality, our very identity, fundamentally shakes my being. And that's scary. Right? It's scary to begin to question beyond ourselves because then we might fall apart. Then we might find another truth that sits more real with us. So we'd rather live the truth that's not our own. We'd rather live the truth that's not our own than begin to be curious about something more. Because again, the pain that I'm in, I deny, avoid, numb, distract in all of these different ways. It's the one glass of wine at night. It's the oversleeping. It's the too much exercise. It's the too much or too little of anything. We need balance. And again, it takes being honest with ourselves. It might not be a numbing or distracting activity for you, but it takes, what is my intention behind this? Why am I smoking weed again? Why am I watching Netflix? Is there anything more meaningful beyond my addiction? Is it an addiction? In what ways am I suffering? Maybe I'm reading books too much. Just stepping back for a second and asking myself, how am I suffering? How have I created my own suffering? How can I forgive myself for doing that? How can I forgive others? Where am I suffering? Maybe there's another word that resonates with you. Oftentimes we avoid suffering because we don't know how to process it either. Be with it without judging it. Oh, I am feeling a whole, like last night I was feeling like this welling up of something that was vulnerable and shameful. And I was like, what is that? I'm just getting curious about it. I'm like not trying to get out of it, but just being with it. And anytime I felt like I was trying to fix it or get away from it, it would just go away. And I wasn't able to allow it fully, and that's okay too. It's oftentimes in the not trying to get anywhere that we do. And so I found creativity is one of the ways that I process and move through my own suffering. And so I wrote a spoken word piece that kind of just explores the emotion of being in that space of I don't know, of the paradox of life, of being spirit in body, of being eternal and fallible at the same time, of feeling alone in the journey. But the aloneness is what actually grants me my freedom, isn't it? You are separate from me in this physical reality, and so I have so much freedom. It doesn't matter what you do, think, or say. I do what I want. And also, I'm so alone in here. You can't know. Is my red the same as your red? Am I seeing the same thing you are? That's qualia. Vsauce has a great video I'll post here on that. Incredible explanatory video on we will never be able to fundamentally know if what I said was what you heard. What you see is what I see. And so that's why I wrote this song as well that I'll play sometime. It's called Lonely Arms of Freedom. They're one and the same. So if you're feeling lonely, can you tune in to that same aspect, the same truth that exists within the loneliness that is freedom? Both are true. I don't want to make this too long, so I'll end with the spoken word here, and may this speak to the pain that we all experience. And if you are in pain, may it let you be with it fully. And if you don't believe that you are, if you don't believe that you are suffering in some way, can you open up to the possibility that there is something there and look at yourself and begin to get curious? And notice the part of yourself that gets scared or doesn't want to do that or has resistance toward that, and allow that too. Feels like a special kind of loneliness, made for just me. What am I? Narcissistic? I speak sarcastically. Using these words to process the pain, I find myself in a predicament. It's a paradox, or I'm insane. This human life we're living, a mystery though it is, I'm not sure it really matters whether we take or give. I have this silly notion that maybe I'll get it just right, so I wait to release. The beauty within until the night closes the day. Here we go again. It feels like I've sinned. In competition, there's no end. I'm not really sure who this is for, you or me. Either way, I feel ignored with no choice but to create. The boredom and despair drives me to write these words. Restless, I'm aware that no matter what I do, each task will get done. Choiceless choice I move through. I'm not having any fun. I speak about the pain because so few do. In love, I write in vain. Across universes, I connect to you. I can only get so close. If you really pay attention, there's freedom in the loneliness. We must be brave to find connection. Energy that wants to run, though I'm sitting still. It's easy to get off track when my stomach's feeling ill. Even if I kick or scream, I'll never get my way. The universe has another plan I pray to follow each day. Speak with conviction or say nothing at all. Put some oomph behind your words so that you can stand tall. It's the pride that we're afraid of, inflated like a balloon. The ego we've created is really empty like a vacuum. But the praise of which I'm worthy is what will heal the pain. Pause. I stop in boredom to start all over again.